All right, here we go. The finale, the final episode of WandaVision Season 1. I'm excited to get into this. Before we get started, I want to warn you that this will contain spoilers. Spoilers for this episode and pretty much the whole Season 1 of WandaVision. Not sure if there's going to be a Season 2. But this is the last episode of Season 1, so any spoilers for this season could, potentially happen. So if you haven't watched it, what's wrong with you? What are you doing? Go and watch the show. Go and watch WandaVision. Go and watch the finale if that's the one you haven't watched yet. Go and watch it and then come back here. Check out this because we're going to talk about that right now. I'm excited. We're going to get into this right after the intro. All right, welcome back to the DLJonesBooks show. I'm your host, DL Jones, and forget the spill. I just want to get into talking about this episode because a lot happened in this episode. It was pretty much an action-packed episode, pretty much from the start of the episode to the end, there was almost, complete action the whole entire time. So I want to get right in on it. I want to start talking about it. I want to tell you about what happened. And, and I don't want to waste any more time. We're just going to get right in on this right now. All right. So this episode starts almost directly where it ended off in the last episode. You have Wanda and Agatha facing off. Agatha got the kids on sort of like that little magical leash type thing. And Wanda, she kind of warns her. She was like, I can use my powers out here. Did you forget that? Agatha, she did something. The kids tried to run towards Wanda and Agatha kind of snatched back on the leash and caused them to fall, which Wanda wasn't having it. Wanda quickly shot a magic bolt across the thing, blasted Agatha in the chest. She goes falling down. Kids runs over to Wanda, and now they want to help. They're like, come on, let's let us help. But Wanda's like, go to your room. I want you safe. Go to your room. So they take off, go in the room. And then right after that, that's when Wanda, she blasted Agatha some more. But this time, Agatha kind of catches her blast, and not only did she catch her blast, but she starts doing almost like the same thing she did in the flashback on the last episode with the witches when the witches was shooting her with blast and stuff. She kind of like absorbed the blast, she absorbed it and just kind of like laughed and kind of taunted Wanda a little bit. Now when she caught her blast, she kind of like looked at Wanda and was like, this is sort of my thing, basically telling her that what she does is she absorbs people's magic. She's sort of like a vampire for magic. So when she did that, and then Wanda looked at her hand and she could see where her hand was starting to get a little shriveled up, sort of like how the witches from the flashback in the last episode look. Her hand kind of got that way, kind of looked a little shriveled up. So Wanda, you see, she light up her magic again, but this time, instead of like sending magic directly at Agatha, she kind of levitated a car. A car comes flying from out of somewhere and just slams into Agatha and crashes her into the house, So Wanda's looking and, the car is like crashing to the house and everything. So she walks over to the car and walked over to the house trying to investigate things. And you could see Agatha's boot sticking out from underneath the car. Or when she squats down and looks, she see it was just Agatha's boots. Agatha was nowhere to be found. So she kind of walks away, and then when she turns around, she sees Vision. But this time is not the real Vision, it's the white Vision, So he walks over to her, and at that time, Wanda kind of seemed like she doesn't realize that it's not her Vision. So Vision walks up to her and kind of like, puts his hand on her face, and it kind of looks like it's like a affectionate touch, and then he puts his other hand up there, but no. He goes to try to kill Wanda. He starts scratching, squeezing down on her head, and Wanda's, you could see it on her face. She's in pain, and Vision is trying to like pretty much crush her head with his hands. And as he does this, he lifts her off the ground, and he's planning on killing Wanda, but as he does that, the real Vision just comes flying from out of nowhere and just rams into the white Vision and drags him across the ground, and then gets down to the end of the street and tosses him into what looks like a camper or a van or something, and the camper just blows up, so the real Vision turns around and he's walking back towards Wanda, trying to make sure that she's okay. At that point, Vision walks over and Wanda's like, now she's apologizing to him. She's like, I haven't been completely honest. I need to tell you I'm sorry. And Vision is like, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. But they both interrupted because right at that point, the white Vision shows up and Agatha shows up. They both show up again. So their fight isn't over yet. They still got to deal with those two. Next, we finally see Monica. They didn't really show her at all in the last episode, but we see her now. She looks like she's in somebody's bedroom or something, and she's trapped. She's in there with Pietro, the fake Pietro, the Evan Peters Pietro, he's sitting on a chair, like he's still being like a silly type character. He's sitting on a chair, kind of playing with the guitar. And Monica is seeing all of the stuff that's going on outside with Wanda and Agatha and Vision. She's looking through the window and she's seeing all of that stuff and she's trying to get their attention. But the fake Pietro, he's like, oh, they can't hear you in here, So she turns around and she looks at Pietro, and then she looks around and she notices a door. So she goes to try to make a run for the door so she can leave out. But Pietro catches her and he uses his super speed to get in front of her and block her from being able to run out the door. Then he kind of just points his finger at her, but he does it using his super speed, and it pokes her in the chest, which just shoots her right across the room and knocks her down. Next, we got a scene with Director Haywood. You can tell he's watching all of the stuff going on the computers with the monitors, with the tracking, of visions and everything, trying to see what's going on. And it looked like at some point they caught Agent Wu because they're bringing him in. He's in handcuffs and everything. So at that point, Director Haywood actually pretty much tells out his whole plan. He does a little brief monologue about how he's gonna, how he sent his version of Vision in there to kill everybody, and they're gonna erase the footage and nobody's ever gonna know, and they're going to pretend that the Vision that he created is the real Vision, and nobody's gonna know because they're gonna erase all proof of it. And Agent Wu is like, well, I see it. I'm not gonna fall for it. And Director Haywood kind of spends a few moments trying to convince Agent Wu to come to his side. And while he's doing that, Agent Wu kind of sees a cell phone sitting on the table, and he sneaks over and he kind of, turns his back to the phone so he can grab it with his hand, which is handcuffed behind his back, and put it in his pocket. Well, when it was done, Agent Wu kind of makes a threat that he already have the FBI on their way there. They'll be there within the hour, which it was really a bluff because he hadn't talked to anybody. But after that conversation is over, one of Director Haywood's, soldiers took Agent Wu away and put him, off in a room. Then that's when Agent Wu made a phone call and, to tell, to get backup and told them they have to be there within the hour. I guess trying to make what his bluff turn out to be something that's real. Next, we go back to Wanda. She's walking around Westview. She's still trying to find Agatha because if you remember, she sent that car into Agatha, but she was nowhere to be found when she went looking for her. So she's walking around Westview trying to find Agatha. And Agatha eventually appears. She's just on top of some building or whatever. So what Agatha does is that she kind of released a spell from everybody in the town. All of the townsfolk are just walking around, but she kind of released a spell from everybody in the town. And once she does that, all of the people, they start looking at Wanda, and then they start pleading with Wanda, help me, you're doing this to me. We feel your pain. When we go to sleep, we have your nightmares. They're letting Wanda know that they are having a rough time of it, which, from Wanda's, reaction, you could tell that Wanda thought that she didn't know that they were suffering. She thought that they were all being held safe, and she thought they were all fine, but, they let Wanda know that, they are indeed suffering, and when they did that, Wanda decided, she wasn't going to deal with it no more. She didn't want to make people suffer anymore. So she just yells out a scream and starts removing the hex. She starts dismantling the hex with her magic and stuff, and the hex is slowly going away, and she tells everybody, leave, now's your chance, leave, so they're all running to try to leave Westview. At the same time, Director Haywood on the outside, he noticed what's going on, and he's like, this is our chance, let's go in. So they get in their trucks and they start driving to go inside of Westview. One thing that happens after Wanda starts bringing down the hex is that she noticed that Vision and the twins, they all were kind of in the same area with her at this time, but she noticed they all were starting to disappear. They were starting to break apart. And while she was doing that, she realized that, if she brings down the hex, that's going to get rid of her kids, and that's going to get rid of Vision, and Agatha knew it. Agatha was like, yeah, this is the choice you have to make. You either got to keep the hex if you want your family, or get rid of the hex to free the people, but you're going to also lose your family, And when this happened, Wanda reverses everything and she puts the hex back on, and then that restores, the twins and Vision again, So when she did that, it seemed like it kind of angered Agatha, and Agatha sends a purple magic bolt of, magic towards them, trying to blast them away. And Wanda saw it coming, so she kind of put a shield over them, like a force field, of using her magic, and it put like a bubble over all of them, her, Vision, and the kids, to block the magic bolt that Agatha is sending. But what ended up happening is once the bolt that Agatha sent out hit the shield, Agatha started pulling it back and just kind of, absorbing Wanda's magic, pulling Wanda's magic from her, and absorbing it in herself, which at the end of this, Wanda then ended up having two hands that was like shriveled up looking, looked like they were damaged, based on, because, the magic was being drained from her. So at that point, everything goes crazy. Director Haywood and his agents, they show up. The White Vision, he shows up again. So you end up having a situation where you got Wanda, Vision, and the two twins. They're sitting there and they're kind of surrounded by Director Haywood, the White Vision, and Agatha. They're all sitting there and they're all looking at, Wanda and Vision and the twins and everything. But of course, Director Haywood, they're on one side, they want to get rid of everybody except for the White Vision. Agatha, she pretty much had been ignoring the White Vision. She's focused all, mostly on Wanda, and of course, Vision and the kids, they have, the real Vision has been fighting the White Vision up until this point, and the kids have been hiding in the room until they came out just now. So it looks like it's going to be this big battle, Okay, so there's also a scene with Monica again. You go back in the room and Monica, she's sitting down now. She's already got knocked on her butt one time by the fake Quicksilver. But she's sitting down and she's looking through just paperwork that's in the room, and she picks up some mail and stuff and start reading, and she realizes that the fake Quicksilver, he's not really Quicksilver. He's not really Pietro. He is Ralph. Ralph is the guy that owns the house. So she holds up a picture of Ralph, and you see the guy, just a normal looking picture, and at the bottom of the picture, you see the person's name.
You're Ralph Boner?
Ralph Boner. So at that point, she's questioning, who's controlling you? Who's making you do the stuff that you're doing? So she kind of stands up and walks toward him, and he looks like he's ready to fight her again, but he wasn't ready. She kind of did some little martial arts move and took him down real quick, and mounted him. And then she, her eyes lit up, purple, and she starts looking at him. And then she can see that he's wearing a necklace, and the necklace was glowing purple also, so she put two and two together and realized that necklace is probably what's controlling him. So of course she snatched the necklace off his neck. And as soon as she does, then he turns into a regular person and he's pleading for her not to kill him and all of this kind of stuff, So back outside, the twins, Vision and Monica, they're all kind of squared off. Wanda was like, tell the kids, I know we haven't had time to prepare you for this, but you was born to do this, as far as fighting enemies and stuff like that. So Vision was like, I'll take Vision, you handle Agatha. And Wanda told the kids, he was like, you take care of the military, So right then, Vision just runs into White Vision and they start battling, they flying around and battling and stuff, and then they end up in what looks like a library. And then when they're in there fighting, and while they're fighting, Vision kind of stops them and was like, why are you attacking me? And then the White Vision was like, well, I'm programmed to defeat Vision. And Vision told him, he was like, I'm not really Vision. I'm more like a replacement Vision. I'm not the real Vision. So they started talking. At that point, White Vision was like, elaborate. So they started talking, they started having conversations like they're trying to figure things out. Eventually, they figure things out, and both Visions kind of realize that they're both two halves of the same side and everything. And the White Vision allows the real Vision to touch him so he can unlock his memories, because the White Vision was like, I don't have any memories of the stuff you're talking about. And the real Vision told him, well, the memories are there. They're just hidden from you. He was like, if you let me, I'll unlock them. So he unlocked the memories. He touched his head, and all of a sudden you see a flash of all of these memories coming back. And when he was done, the White Vision, it seemed like he kind of realized, who he, what he is. His eyes even changed from the computer looking eyes to more human looking eyes. And when he does that, he looks at Vision. He's like, I am Vision. And then he just takes off. He flies through the ceiling and just flies away. And to be honest with you, we don't see him anymore. That's the last we see of him in this episode. That's the end of it, Then outside, there's a scene where, Billy and Tommy, the twins, one of them that had the magic powers, he kind of lifts his hand, had the same powers as Wanda, and it kind of freezes all the sword agents, and when he does that, the other one just runs around with super speed and just disarms them, just disarms them all. Monica is kind of walking up when all of this stuff is going on, and she's seeing this because, now she's gotten out the room. So she's kind of walking up and she's seeing this. So as she does that, she realized that Director Haywood was in the truck when everybody else was disarmed and he still had his weapon. So he steps out from his truck and aims his pistol at the twins and starts shooting. Well, right when he does that, Monica runs, and she kind of runs and stands in between the twins and Director Haywood where he's shooting his weapon, and she stands there, and all of a sudden you see her eyes glow. This time they glow like a whitish color, and the bullets just start going into her. But as the bullets enter her, that part of her body is turning white, like it's turning into energy, and the bullets are just basically passing through her and slowing down, whereas to the point where it comes out on the backside that it has no more momentum, like she drained the energy from it, and it has no more momentum, and they just fall to the ground. So now we see Monica's powers straight up, and she knows she has those powers, she knew exactly what to do. Everything she's done so far in this whole series where she used her powers, she never had to second guess them. A lot of people were saying that she got the powers from going through the hex and everything. I think she had them all along. They still didn't come up with a definite answer in this episode, but enough stuff has happened, and the way she's dealt with things makes me think that she's had her powers all along. This isn't anything new to her. That's why all of the things like the blood tests and the scans that came back abnormal and everything, none of it bothered her throughout this whole series. She had powers all along. I'm guessing in later movies we're going to find out the story about how she got them, but has nothing to do with the hex. She had them when she showed up on day one. But yeah, she did that, she saved the kids, and you see the powers, stop the bullets and everything. Then the one bullet gets by, and of course Wiccan, which is one of the twins in the comics, his name is Wiccan. He holds up his hand and he catches the last bullet, the one that did get by Monica. He catches that bullet, with his magic, and then it drops to the ground. But that was a pretty cool scene, and it shows her powers, and it shows that she knows she has powers. She knows how to use them. Because who would have, there's no way she would have ran and jumped in front of some bullets if she already knew what was going to happen. So right after that, they show Agatha. She's on the roof. She's watching everything that's going on. And Wanda just kind of sneaks up behind her. She don't even see her coming. She kind of sneaks up behind her and puts her hand on her head and do that thing like she did in the Avengers movies where she kind of like, gave like Thor and Iron Man and stuff when they was infiltrating them. When you first saw Wanda and Quicksilver in the Avengers movies, how she gave them visions, sort of like a nightmare, putting little visions in their head. She does that to Agatha. But what ended up happening is it takes Agatha back to when she was on the stake, and you can see all of the dead witches that she killed that time just all around her on the ground. And Wanda shows up. Wanda shows up in that vision, and she shows up. Then all of a sudden, all of the dead witches rise and they start standing up. And, first Agatha looked like she was surprised. But what ended up happening was when the witches stood up, they saw Wanda and they started calling her the Scarlet Witch, and they attacked her, and they grabbed her and they put her on the stake. And when they was about to put her on the stake, Agatha starts talking to her and starts trying to make a deal with her, telling her to give Agatha all her powers, because what she wants is she just wants to drain all Wanda's powers, So she's telling Wanda, give me your powers. I will fix everything with the hex. I will make everything right. And you can go on living your life, living a happy life like you wanted to, but just give me your power. Well, when she does that, the first thing Wanda does is just blast out all of this magic, and it shoots all of the witches that was holding her away, and then she charges Agatha and just kind of flies towards her and grabs her and takes her back out of the memory back into Westview, and then they're flying through the air like shooting magic. Well, Wanda was the one really shooting magic. She was just blasting magic all over the place. She was blasting at the hex and then blasting Agatha, then blasting at the hex and then blasting Agatha. And then after a while, it got to the point where she blasted so much of her magic at Agatha that all of it was drained from her, and she was just floating in the air, and her whole body kind of her face and everything kind of looked like shriveled up like her hands was. Agatha, that's when you find out the little deal that Agatha tried to make with her wasn't real. She was like, once you do a spell, I can't go in and change it, So she was like, that part of our deal is not going to work. But she was like, but, thank you anyway. And then she goes to try to finish Wanda off, and she lifts her hand to like try to do her magic, and nothing happens. So she tries it again and nothing happens. And she's wondering why her magic doesn't work. And then that's when you notice that inside the hex all around are those runes. The same runes that Agatha had in the 7th episode, where in the basement, that caused Wanda to not be able to do any magic. Wanda had done the same thing throughout the whole hex on the inside, So when she did that, Agatha couldn't do any magic. And once that happened, Wanda just basically turned into the Scarlet Witch. All of these powers came to her, and she just, by the time it was finished, she had on the Scarlet Witch outfit, and she ended up just imprisoning Agatha. She told her, I'm not going to kill you. I'm not going to send you to a prison. What you're going to do is you're going to stay in this town. And she said, and you're going to play the role that you were playing all along when I first met you, and which is Agnes, So she kind of touched her head, and she puts her back in the spell, and everything changed, and she went back to Agnes. She went back to being Agnes of the first episode. And she was like, you're going to be this is your prison from now on. And she was like, if I need help with anything, or I need to ask you any questions, I know where to find you. I'll come back here and get you, if I ever need anything, So right when that happened, that's when like Vision and Wanda, and I think even the kids, they all knew that she had to take the hex down. They knew it was coming, and they knew that once the hex is gone, they were no longer going to, they were no longer going to exist. So you had this scene where they walk to the house, and Vision and Wanda kind of, puts the twins to bed for the last time and kind of say like a little heartfelt goodbye. And then, of course, Vision and Wanda themselves have a moment to say their goodbyes and everything. And all the while it's going on, the hex is slowly dropping down over the whole city, And then once she's done, you can see that the hex is coming closer to the house. And eventually the hex, takes over the house, and then everything disappears. The house is gone, Vision is gone, the twins is gone, and you have Wanda, sitting in the middle of the foundation, just where the house was. She's just standing in the middle of the foundation, and the whole town is back to how it was when she first drove up, and when they showed that flashback of her leaving Sword headquarters and going to Westview, and she's looking at the deed. Everything is back to the state it was in from that day. She reversed everything, Now, once that's all said and done, you see her, she walks up, the rest of the Sword agents, and well, I guess now it's the FBI agents that Agent Wu called. They're there, and you can see Director Haywood is in handcuffs. He's getting arrested. And Monica Rambeau, she's just standing there, looking around and everything. And Wanda walks up, and then Monica and Wanda kind of have a moment. They talk, to each other. Monica is kind of, sympathetic to, to how Wanda felt, and she kind of understands why all of this stuff happened. And she even says that if she had her power, she would probably do the same thing to bring her mother back, So after they have their, brief little talk and goodbyes, Wanda kind of turns around, and the magic goes over her, and she turns into the Scarlet Witch. She has a Scarlet Witch outfit, and she just takes off flying, flying away, and that's the end of it. She flies away, and the closing credits come, and that's the end of everything. Everything is sealed up in a nice little bow with a lot of things that we're still wondering about, which I guess will get answered in future movies and TV shows and stuff like that. All right, so that's the end of the episode, but there were two scenes. There was two post-credit scenes in this one. There was a mid-credit scene and the end-credit scene. I'm gonna go through both of them, and they were pretty quick, so I'm gonna go through both of them. All right, so the first mid-credit scene, you have Agent Wu. He's kind of directing everything, getting all of the stuff cleaned up and starting an investigation and everything in Westview. And while he's doing that, Monica, she walks up to him and she makes a comment about how it's impressive to see him taking charge of everything, and while she's talking to him, another woman walks up. Another woman, like kind of in a pantsuit and stuff, walks up, and she tells Monica, they're looking for you in the theater. So Monica's like, okay. So she turns around and she starts walking towards the middle of the town where the theater is, and she goes inside the theater and she walks in and she don't see anybody. She gets over in front of the screen, which something is playing on the screen. I don't know what it is, but she don't see anybody. Well, as she turned around, the woman who told her, walks over, and as she walks, she kind of shifts, her body shifts, and you find out she's a Skrull, and then when she does that, she looks at Monica and she's like, I heard you've been grounded. Someone up there would like to have a word with you. So Monica just kind of looks at her and was like, where? And then the woman just points upwards, So that was pretty cool. I'm guessing the ship that, if I had to guess, I'm guessing the ship that Nick Fury was on at the end of, what was it, Spider-Man Far From Home, where you showed Nick Fury on this ship, at the end credit scene. I'm guessing she's talking about that ship. I'm guessing because that ship had a lot of squirrels and stuff up there. And I'm guessing, Nick Fury is who wants to speak with her and wants her to come to that ship because, this or that. But it could also be Captain Marvel, because she did say, the woman did introduce herself as a friend of her mother's, or the person who is a friend of her mother's is who sent her there, which a person who would be a friend of her mother's would be Captain Marvel. So she could be, wanting to be summoned by Captain Marvel up there, and that could lead into Captain Marvel 2, when that movie comes out. This could be like a little preface for that movie, which now that I think about it, I think it's more likely that that's what it means more so than the Nick Fury thing. Okay, so at the very end, there was another kind of post-credit scene at the very end. And this one starts off where it looked like it's a flyaway, like a flyaway view over like, trees and land and all of this kind of stuff. And you get way out here. Looks like some kind of secluded place, and there's a little house, a little house there. And now when it gets closer to the house, you see that Wanda is sitting on the porch of this house, and she has like a cup of coffee or something, and you can hear like the little whistling from a tea kettle or teapot inside the house going off. And Wanda gets up and walks into the house and go to the stove, to pour a cup of tea. But the camera doesn't stop and focus on her. The camera just keeps going past her and go through the house to the back of the house. And when you get in the back of the house, you see the Scarlet Witch. She's sitting there, she's hovering, and she's doing like magic stuff. And there's that book, the book is in front of her open, and it looks like she's reading the book or searching the book. Maybe she's studying or something like that. But as she's doing that, you start hearing voices, and the voices sound like the twins, and they're yelling out, Mom, help me, Mom, stuff like that. Then it stops like that. So I think this is the scene that's going to probably be like a precursor to things to happen with the Multiverse of Madness, the Doctor Strange 2 movie, So yeah, so that was the two cutscenes, Pretty much, I think both of them were set up cutscenes. It didn't really have anything to do with what happened in this series or this season of WandaVision, but I think they are setups for other things to come, So there you have it. That's the end of WandaVision. The first season finished. The whole season finished. And I have to say, this episode had a lot of action. It doesn't seem like a lot of stuff happened, but it was almost like the whole episode was like a bunch of action set pieces, probably about 2 or 3 action set pieces that just went on. It was just fights. There was Monica fighting Pietro, there was Wanda fighting Agatha, there was Vision fighting Vision, and then you had the kids doing little stuff with the soldiers. So it was just like it went back and forth from different little set pieces. And it was pretty good. It was entertaining. Did it answer everything that people were suspecting to happen? It didn't. A lot of the things that people rumored to happen didn't happen, but I also think it left a lot of things open because, Vision kind of just flew away. The White Vision, he kind of just flew away. No explanation. They never went back to him. When you found out that Pietro wasn't the real Pietro, he was actually Ralph that lived in that house. They kind of never went back to that. So it left with a lot of questions still. Will those questions get answered? I don't know. Maybe in things to come they'll get answered. But I don't know. I mean, I feel like they still left a lot of stuff open, But overall, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the episode. I like the action and everything. And I feel pretty satisfied. I might do another video with more of an in-depth review, my take on how I feel about the whole season, you know. I might go and give the whole season another watch before I do it. But yeah, that's my recap of WandaVision episode 9. I thought it was awesome. Let me know in the comments below what you thought about the episode. Let me know what you thought about the season. And make sure you hit like and subscribe. And, you know, I had a blast doing all of these videos. I'm sad to see it end. But, you know, I'm pretty sure something else will come along. And I'm glad you stayed there with me to watch this video. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.